To have you here on the show. Thank you for making time.
Absolutely.
What should people understand about the rationale for protecting places like schools, churches, synagogues, hospitals from immigration enforcement actions in the past?
Yeah, I mean, here, this is very simple. First of all, I don't know my country anymore, right? When we are looking at situations that are so disruptive to our communities. And again, as you talked about the hero who wasn't necessarily wearing a cape, but instead had her coffee cup, when we think about the disruption to everyone because of something that really is a civil penalty, I want to get this across to your viewers, because I don't think that people understand that as Republicans oftentimes say things like, oh, they're illegal, they're illegal. According to federal law, you literally can get a traffic ticket that is more serious than what this is. It's a civil penalty. And so to have these guys disrupting you as you are trying to pray, whether you're an immigrant or not, you're disrupting a place of worship. Or tell me about what type of liability, I mean, even if you don't care about the people themselves, but tell me about the type of liability that we may face if somebody literally is trying to seek care and then you take them away from that care and into our custody, right? Like, it doesn't make sense, not to mention the disruption that it causes for everybody else that's seeking care. And now we're talking about the kids. We're talking about parents not taking their kids to get the education that they need, and the kids may be enjoying something that we call birthright citizenship, yet they're missing out on school because their parents are too afraid to drop them off. And the final point that I'll say is I want people to understand that undocumented folk in this country contribute approximately $100 billion in taxes, and they pay into Social Security that they can't pull down on. So you tell me how any of this makes sense, because the estimation is that it would cost us approximately $200 billion in the first year to try to effectuate this. And we know the Republicans are proposing that ICE be given approximately $350 billion. And right now that's causing a lot of consternation within the Republican caucus. And that is why we are headed to a shutdown on March 14th, because instead of cutting money, it looks like they are absolutely going to need more money.
Let me ask you also about the impact, as a representative from Texas, who's been right in the middle of the culture war over this, but also who represents a very diverse district. It strikes me also that with some of these changes, not just saying we're going to go after people wholesale, and not just making it into a big propaganda spectacle and inviting celebrities and, you know, hand-picked media to go along to make it look like an episode of Cops. But in addition to that, by going after, saying we want to go after people in schools and in places of worship and in healthcare facilities, the cruelty there and the impact there is to really isolate immigrant families or families that have mixed status so that they can't participate in the fabric of culture the way they do right now, and in the basic fabric of services that we all avail ourselves of, so that they are more isolated, so they are more afraid, so they don't feel supported by their fellow Americans and the other people who live among them. I wonder if you think that is the aim, and if so, if there are other things that Americans who are not in immigrant families, people who do not face these same kind of threats, if what they can do to kind of bridge that distance.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's that, but I think it's even deeper than that. What we've seen out of this administration is nothing but chaos and confusion. That is how they, quote unquote, lead, right? And so here's the deal. Whether it's legal or whether it's not legal, it has the same effect, right? So he decides, you know what, I'm going to make a big spectacle out of getting rid of this executive order. And then next thing you know, we're having to file legislation to try to protect. But who's keeping up with all of this drama that's happening? At the end of the day, it's whatever news headline they saw last or first, or whichever one they feel most comfortable with. And so right now what we have is that they have been able to inflict fear. This is why you brought up Texas, and this is going to impact Texas a ton, as well as the rest of the country. But even when we start to think about the farms that we have in Texas, or we think about the fact that he even tried to do his little tariff war with Mexico. Mexico and Texas, we share a very special relationship for a lot of different reasons. But one is because they are our biggest trade partner as well. So now we've got all of these farmers that are saying, hey, My farm workers are not showing up. It's not just the schools, the hospitals, and the religious institutions. It's actually everywhere. They are afraid to go to work, and that's only ending up causing more issues for us as Americans. And that's what I need people to understand. This isn't a matter of, oh, well, that's over there. This impacts all of us because, again, we are a country of immigrants. And the fact that we have so many people that either don't know our history or want to ignore our history, or as we know, this administration, especially in Black History Month, they want to delete our history. The reality is that immigrants have always been what made this country great, not this white supremacy agenda, which is what we are dealing with. And this is what they are doing. They are instilling fear, whether you are Black, whether you are brown, whether you are someone who just wasn't born here. It's kind of like the birthright citizenship. That is something that we find in our Constitution.
Senator Sanders joins us now. You talk about an oligarchy running the White House. You have billionaires now currying favor with the new administration, donating to the presidential library, the inauguration, making deals with family members of the Trump family. How far are we from a kleptocracy?
Well, let's start with oligarchy, and I think we are there. When you see three of the richest people in this country, the three richest, standing behind the president when he gets inaugurated, when you see Elon Musk, who contributed over $200 million, 270, to get Trump elected, and then becomes in many ways the most important appointee of the Trump administration, and when you see since Trump's inauguration, Elon Musk becoming $150 billion richer in 2.5 weeks, $150 billion richer. You tell me whether or not we are living in an oligarchy. And I think the function of government under Trump, under Elon Musk, will not be to serve ordinary people, but to make the very richest people in this country even richer.
There are probably some people watching who think, oh, Elon Musk, smart guy. He's got these 19, 20-something-year-old tech wizards going into government and looking for waste and abuse. And what's wrong with that? What is wrong with what is going on?
Nothing wrong with looking for waste and the kinds of bureaucracy that exist. I think we can do a whole lot to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the excessive bureaucracy that exists in government, especially, by the way, in the Defense Department. What is wrong right now is one simple reality. What Musk is doing is illegal and unconstitutional. You cannot go into an agency like USAID and essentially fire everybody and get rid of that agency. You cannot do that's an agency that was created by Congress. They want to get rid of USAID? Fine. Come to the Congress, make your case. You can't do it unilaterally. You cannot withhold U.S. funds that were appropriated for Medicaid, for community health centers, for Head Start. You cannot put a freeze on that. That money was appropriated by the Congress. And as I hope every fourth grader in America knows, Congress holds the purse strings. And what I also worry about is not just the movement toward oligarchy, but this growing trend toward authoritarianism. I hope the American people are seeing clearly that we had the January 6th rioters, the people who were trying to, in a sense, overthrow an election, undermine democracy, contributed to the injuring of 170 Capitol Hill police officers. They are pardoned. And then the FBI agents who worked hard to make the case, doing what they are told, they are now being investigated. What is the future of the FBI? Is the criteria to be an FBI agent in the future one who swears allegiance to Donald Trump or one who upholds the Constitution and the rule of law? And I'll tell you something else in terms of authoritarianism. And this is something that you and other people in the media should pay attention to. ABC paid a fine to Donald Trump, presumably for saying something that he didn't like. Meta, owned by Zuckerberg, paid a $25 million fine to Trump. Right now, Paramount, that owns CBS, is contemplating reaching a settlement with Trump. He has sued the Des Moines Register. The FCC is now investigating PBS and NPR. That is a movement toward authoritarianism when you go after and intimidate an independent media. So you add it all together, we're moving toward an oligarchy, we're moving toward authoritarianism, and in terms of kleptocracy, well, what can I say? Before he got inaugurated, Trump and his wife issued coins. They made billions of dollars. Anybody can give to the president, in a sense, by buying those coins.
So, folks, Trump is hiding away. He is hiding away from the media. You're wondering why it's only cronies and why you're seeing Elon so much. Part of it is that Elon's hogging the spotlight. We're going to talk about how Trump doesn't like that. But it's a razor's edge with Trump. He's hiding away in a lot of ways because he's afraid of both the new rising stars of the Democratic Party, people like Jasmine Crockett, who, guys, like, look, if her and Donald met in the ring, Jasmine in one round, right? Like, she would destroy him. But also he's afraid of people like Bernie Sanders, who understand more than anybody his hyper-capitalist fascist project. And so, again, this is what scares Donald. The instant unification of the Democratic Party. It's happened faster than in 2016. Look, after 2016, a lot of people still blamed Bernie. I don't think fairly at all for that result. So there's still this tension of, like, who's at fault for electing Donald Trump? But this time, yeah, there's some discussions like would voters, made a mistake voting for Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, it's like, no, we have to be together. And you've seen, some moderate Democrats work with the leftists, the old Democrats work with the young Democrats. It's been good to see, and that's Trump's biggest fear. A united opposition is a strong opposition.